Good morning, everyone, from Vermont. I am here in my grandma's hometown in this tiny little town in northern Vermont. And today I'm going to show you guys around. So this room I'm in right now is the sleeping porch. My uncle is using it. And as you can see, it is very foggy. Very, 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 very foggy here in the morning. You can't even tell if it's going to be a blue sky day or a cloudy day because it's just fog everywhere. And this house we're in is actually from the year 1910. This is the house that my grandma was born and raised in. So right behind me here is the little dollhouse that my grandma used to play with when she was younger. And when me and my cousins were growing up, we would play with this dollhouse. And then when we have our kids and bring them to this house, they are gonna play in this dollhouse. And most of the furniture in this house is from the 1920s, 1930s. There's a little bit of new like plastic imposters in there, but for the most part, it is a lot of stuff that's about 100 years old or 80, 90 years old, which is pretty sick actually. Look at this. Look at these little babies. You'll never see a doll that looks like this anymore. So right here is a bedroom. This is a bedroom. This is a bedroom. And then there's one more bedroom all the way at the end of this hallway. My cousin is coming from California to visit, so she'll be staying in this room. Yeah, there are a lot of bedrooms in this house. And a lot of rugs. As I told you guys, here in America, we love rugs. So like basically every single room has rugs in it. So this room here is the living room. Right here is the kitchen. This right here is the dining room, which also doubles as a board game zone. We played Scrabble in here last night. We have all come to this agreement that we do not want to update this house to a super modern interior. We like the feeling of walking into a time capsule. It is cool. It is aesthetic. Of course, we do repairs and stuff. Like you can see the ceiling is kind of ripped open here because the wiring in the house had to be redone.
At the time it was replaced, the house's electrical system was over 100 years old and it had not been designed to last that long or to handle so much power being used by so many people. It actually caused the house to lose its eligibility for fire insurance. And that is a really big deal to our family because we actually lost a house on this exact same piece of property to a huge fire that raged through the neighborhood over 100 years ago. Fire insurance was very rare at that time, so most of the neighbors suffered devastating losses, but my family actually had fire insurance, so they used their insurance payout to build an even bigger and better house. This is why there are a bunch of fire insurance posters hanging all around this house reminding us that we must have it, so my uncle took 2 months to coordinate tearing the house apart, redoing all of the wiring, so we could have fire insurance. If you don't have it, get it. That shit's important. Okay, tangent over.
Here is our lovely little porch where we always sit in the evening. Oh my gosh, I hate these locks. And this place right here is the front porch. Let me show you guys the view. This is the most popular place in the whole house. It's just a really nice place to sit, rain or shine, all times of the day. We're sitting on this porch, except for right now, apparently. There's nobody out here. So now that I'm finally here, I'm gonna give you guys a brief rundown of my long journey of how I finally got to this place from this porch on my rocking chair, because we're in Vermont and we love rocking chairs. So, sorry, there are other people in this house right now, so I'm like, I don't want anyone to see me vlogging, it's awkward. So as many of you guys know, I live in a village, so it was quite a long excursion to get out of the village into the city center of Hangzhou, get on the bullet train, take the bullet train to Shanghai, and then go from the Shanghai train station all the way to the boondocks of Shanghai. And my flight was at 7 in the morning. Good morning, everyone from Shanghai. It is 3:55 a.m. I'm on this bus to the airport. And look at this, Jen is dropping me off, even though it's so dang early. I wasn't gonna vlog in the airport because airports are boring, but I had to show you. You can buy a whole crab in the Pudong airport. Crabs for sale. All right, time to find my gate. And I started on my very long, boring flight. I was going with Emirates, which meant that the food was actually edible. And if you guys are unaware, Emirates actually has a bunch of different meal options. So I did not choose the standard meal. I chose the Indian vegetarian meal because the reason why airline food sucks so much, in my opinion, is because the meat and the eggs are always just weird. Like they just ain't right. So I chose a meal that would not have either of those things. And it was actually edible. It was pretty dang good. And I watched some Arabic movies. And then I arrived at my layover, which was in Dubai. And as you all know, layovers suck, everybody hates them, but I took a flight that has a 14-hour layover. So the layover in Dubai turned from being something annoying to being a gift dropped onto me from the heavens. It was so much fun, it was so amazing. I went on the metro, which is above ground, so you can see out the window for most of the route. And it even has this car that you can stand in the very front because it drives automatically, so there's no driver. So you can watch all the scenery coming by from the front. I rode the metro all the way to the end, to the very boondocks of Dubai. And then I rode it all the way back because it was too hot to go outside. And after that, the sun finally went down and I went outside and I went wandering around.
The sun is setting right now, and it just occurred to me, I've been in Dubai for hours, but this is actually my very first time stepping outside because it's just too dang hot.
اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط من لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا.
It was very fascinating. It was very interesting. Window into a part of the world that I've never been to. I've never been to the Middle East before. It was the best layover I've probably ever had, honestly. And then after that, I got back on another long, boring flight, and I finally arrived in Washington, D.C., which you would think would be the final destination, but it was not. I actually had another flight the next day at the crack of dawn to come to Vermont for my family reunion.
There's literally a sign telling you not to bring your gun on the plane in case there was any confusion, if people think they can bring their gun on the plane here. This airport has rocking chairs. Welcome to Vermont, everyone.
And now I'm finally here, and I'm gonna show you guys around the neighborhood, so let's go. Okay, let us commence the neighborhood tour. This little red house here is where my mother's friend used to live. She was blind, so they would sit out on the porch chatting. And I had this stupid game that I loved playing with her, which was where I would go to the raspberry bushes in the backyard and pick the beetles off of them and ask her, how many beetles do you think I have in my hand? And then she would guess, and I would open my hand and be like, this many beetles, and then she'd be like, ha ha ha, and then we would just play that dumb game over and over and over again. And she was blind, so she couldn't even like see the beetles or anything, but I guess she took my word for it on how many there were in my hand. Here is the old church. This is the only existing church in this neighborhood now. There used to be two. There used to also be a Catholic church. There's multiple different sects of Christianity. I don't know what this one is. I just know that my family is not Catholic and we are not going to the Catholic church. We're only going to this church. And now the Catholic church got knocked down, so we win. And right over here is the governor's house, the fanciest house in the neighborhood. Have a gander. They'd have this little tea time thing twice a week. And my cousin, for years and years, she was like begging to go. And I think in our imagination, it was like this all-you-can-eat buffet of pastries and we were just gonna like stuff our face. But actually, you had to be very ladylike, which we are not. And there was not a whole lot of pastry selection, actually. They were a little bit stingy on the pastries, given the ticket price to get into the tea time. But still, it was an interesting experience, nevertheless. This little road right here has two precious memories attached to it. One is me learning how to ride a bike, and we always would come down to this road here because there aren't many cars on it, and we would get stuck on that hairpin turn a lot. That was like the testing ground of whether my cousins and I had mastered riding a bike. And the other thing is the evening walk that my family goes on after dinner pretty much every day during the summer. Check out that view. That's why we come here, to see the sunset. It's very nice. This building behind me apparently used to be a jail. My mother told me that back in her day, you could see the people in the jail and they could actually yell to you through the window. So whenever she or her brothers would walk in here, they would like yell at her and you could actually talk to the prisoners, which is kind of unheard of in this day and age, but that was like the 70s, so I guess nobody really cared. And this is the courthouse here. This house right here used to belong to my great aunt, and she lived up to the ripe old age of 99 and they were in the middle of planning her 100th birthday celebration when she departed from this world. But hey, 99 is still really solid. This building right behind me is the old hotel. And back in my grandma's day, which was like the 1920s, 1930s, this was a pretty bougie hotel. When I was growing up, that building was a furniture store. My cousin and I would go in there sometimes and like play house, and you could just play in there for hours and just like forget the world exists. Something really interesting about this place is that in my grandma's day, it was a really bustling, well-to-do small town. In my day, I would spend about 2 to 3 weeks every summer here, so still got a pretty good glimpse of this place. And it was just the most quiet, abandoned little town you'd ever dang seen. There was like nobody here except for some elderly residents, and there just was not anything going on. Pretty much all the local businesses had disappeared. It just looked like it was literally going to crumble into oblivion. Until the recent 5-ish years. Every time I come to this place, there are more and more people. And they're young people too. It's not just the original elderly residents. And you may think, wow, is the US doing rural revitalization too? No, it is the housing crisis. Let my cousin tell you a little bit more about that.
Renting is
You rent
terrible, like it,
and you die.
The landlords are just, they will jack up the price all the time after each lease. There's not enough housing being built.
Because of the housing crisis, people are being like forced back to
Oh,
these
if there's
dead
a house, there's
towns.
a person in it.
That's just
Yeah.
so wild, because like just my memory of this place is it always being so empty, and then coming back this time, like, oh my gosh, there's people outside.
So yeah, it's just a very interesting side effect of a problem that is plaguing many areas of the US. It has caused these abandoned little towns to kind of come back to life a little bit. I am not offering any commentary this way or that way, I'm just telling you what it is. That is what's happening. So this town has more people than it ever has in my entire life. The building behind me used to be a restaurant, but I've never seen that in my life. It was back in my grandma's day. This building used to be a general store, and I do remember that from my childhood. I remember me and my cousins coming down to the general store and getting like candy or whatever, but I think around the time we were like 10 years old, the general store went out of business. And that began a cycle of people buying that building and doing something in it for like 2 to 3 years and then going out of business. And I've seen like 3-ish little restaurant, bakery kind of establishments come and go. And the current restaurant bakery establishment that is there has survived already for about 3 years. So hopefully they can make it in the long haul. It is nice to see small businesses sort of thriving here. Like I've seen a lot of people going in and out of the bakery this morning because there are actually people living here for once. Good morning.
Morning.
I love his garden. It's so lush. This building behind me is the old school. It's about 130 years old. It's where my grandma went to elementary school. A lot of new school buildings are just not very aesthetic. The school I went to was really nothing worth writing home about. It was pretty ugly, to be honest, but these buildings from like the early 1900s, late 1800s, they're super cute. Like people back then really knew how to make a building aesthetic. Here is the library, and it used to actually just be this tiny building. And now they've upgraded. Not only do they have this mini library outside in case you come by when it's not open and you want to borrow a book, they also have a huge extension on the back. So as you guys can see, there is some life coming back into this neighborhood, but there is by no means a lot of stuff to do here. It's still not the most exciting place on earth, but why do I like Vermont so much? It's because of the amazing natural scenery in every single direction. We're a very outdoorsy family. We love being outside, and all my memories in Vermont in my childhood are swimming in lakes and hiking and horseback riding and doing non-stop outdoorsy things all day, every day.
It's that love for nature and small obscure places that also drove me to live in a village in China with mountains right in my backyard. I look forward to someday being able to bring my kids to Vermont to have the same kind of childhood summer memories that I always had, even if it takes a ridiculously long plane flight to get there. That's all for today, everyone. In the next video, I'll be sharing with you guys my very first time riding on an American train, and an overnight train at that. So stay tuned and see you next time.